Hi, my name is Danica, and today I have my September wrap-up. So in September I read 9 books. I have pretty much none of them with me. The first book I read was submitted to me for review for the Lesbury, and it's Lyme by Natalie H.G. London. This is a memoir about a woman who gets Lyme disease, and it's about her journey to being diagnosed and being treated, but also all of the things that happened in between. And I ended up liking it a lot more than I was expecting. I haven't really read anything like this before. I haven't read any memoirs about having a chronic illness. It was really interesting, both her personal life and her experience with the medical system and with trying to get the right treatment and trying to get the right diagnosis. I would definitely recommend this one. And then I read October by Renee Warrington, which is a novel mostly set in South Africa. It's another one that was sent to me for review for the Lesbury, and like Limelight, I'll have the review linked down below. I liked this one. It's about a photographer, so it actually has photographs interspersed, which really added a lot to the story. It's a little bit of a love story, but it's kind of like a broken love story. They're both sort of recovering from what happened to them before. So I liked this one. It isn't one of my favorites, but I enjoyed it. Next, I read Being Emily by Rachel Gold. This is a young adult story that is about a trans lesbian teen who's just starting to come out to herself and then to others. This is supposed to be the first teen novel that's from a trans woman's perspective, and I really appreciated that element, and I appreciated that it was a trans lesbian story because we don't see a lot of that. But there were a lot of elements in this story that I didn't like, especially that it's actually half from the perspective of Emily's girlfriend, who ends up being supportive, but in the beginning says a lot of really transphobic stuff, and we see what she's thinking and all of the really transphobic, awful things that she is thinking, and that might be realistic, but it wasn't pleasant to read about. I realized afterwards that there's a lot of positive reviews of this book from trans women, and that there were a lot of trans women who were consulted in the writing and editing of this book, so I could be completely wrong about it, but I didn't enjoy it as much. After that I read Rachel Gold's second novel, which is Just Girls. This is another queer trans story, but it's set in college, and again it comes in 2 perspectives, but one of them is a cis lesbian and one of them is a trans bisexual woman. In the beginning we get the perspective of the trans woman. Her name is Ella, and she is a little bit nervous about coming to this new school and had to sort of come out to the administration in a really awkward way. She's a little bit worried about how she's going to be received. And then we get the perspective of Jess, who's the cisgender lesbian character, and she is hearing a lot of transphobic stuff from the people around her because it's sort of leaked that there's a trans woman who's going to be living on campus, and a lot of people are being really horrible about it. So Jess is really angry about this and ends up sort of accidentally outing herself as the trans girl on campus, even though she's not, just to try to deflect some of that hatred from the actual person who would have to experience it. I was really intrigued by the premise because I felt like it could go really wrong, but it could also go really right. And especially after reading Being Emily and not enjoying it completely, I was really worried about how it was going to be treated, but I actually ended up loving this book. I think it was done so well. They're both very supportive of each other, the 2 characters. I don't want to give anything away, but their relationship ends up being very equal, and you don't feel like Jess is charging in to be the white knight. There's like a little bit of that, but I really think it all evens out really well in the end, and it has a lot of just really interesting elements. I'll link my review down below, but I really enjoyed this one. I would definitely recommend it. So I've been a little bit obsessed with Veronica Mars lately for the last couple of months. Really obsessed. I don't know why, but it's a problem. So this month I read The $1,000 Tan Line, which is the first Veronica Mars novel, and I really liked it. I mean, it's pretty much what I was looking for. It fits the feel of Veronica Mars really well. It kind of makes sense as a continuation of the series, so I really enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to the next ones in this series. After that, I've been reading Lilith's Brood by Octavia Butler. This is a bind-up of the 3 books in the series, I already did a review of the first one, Dawn, on this channel. I can link that below. But I just finished the second book and I am just a couple of chapters away from finishing the third book right now. I might do a full review in the next week or so since Stephanie Spines requested it, and I do think this is a really interesting series. It's very thought-provoking. I won't say a lot about it now, but I'm enjoying it. And next, continuing my Veronica Mars obsession, I read Neptune Noir, Unauthorized Investigations into Veronica Mars, edited by Rob Thomas, and this is a collection of essays about Veronica Mars by different people, and it's actually edited by Rob Thomas, who's the creator of Veronica Mars, which is really interesting because he has his own introduction, and then every essay has a short introduction by Rob Thomas kind of discussing what he thought of the essay, which I really enjoyed, and there's a couple of really great little insights in there. The essays themselves, overall, I really enjoyed. They're kind of exactly what I'm looking for from this kind of collection. Thinking deeply about it, but not trying to be super academic, but also from the perspective of people who obviously know what they're talking about and are really familiar with the material. It made me think differently about a couple of different things. This, unfortunately, was written before the series finished, so it's just after the second series was finished. These essays were written, so they don't really have any insight into the third season or the movie, but that's fine. It still was really interesting, and those two were kind of the best seasons. Lastly, I finished an audiobook, which is Rebel Angels, which is the second book in the Gemma Doyle trilogy by Libba Bray. I listened to the audiobook of the first one last October, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. I figured this month I would give it another try. I heard that there was some queer content in the last two books, and I feel pretty much the same way about the second book. I maybe even enjoyed it less than the first one. I felt like in the first half of the book almost nothing happens. There is like a big dramatic ending to the story, but I felt like there was a lot of padding. And I just wasn't that interested in the plot. I do like the characters. The plot didn't really grab me. I'll probably finish the series at some point, but I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't for another year or two. I'm not really eager to finish it. And those were my books that I read in September. Let me know if you've read any of them and what you thought of them. And if you have a September wrap-up video, feel free to link it down below and I'll definitely check it out. And thank you for watching. Bye!